I'm John Bowden from Rocky Street Book, and we're up to our entire interview with George Merrill and Shannon Rubicam of Boy Meets Girl, a duo that had great success, two hits, Old Girl, and their number 5 hit, Waiting for a Star to Fall. They also wrote 2 songs, and I should point out number 1 songs for Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody Who Loves Me, and How Will I Know? And there's so much more to their story. Here's Shannon and George with my Shannon on Rock History Book. Hey, George.
Hi, George.
Dig the glasses.
Poindexter glasses.
We're just telling Shannon that when my Shannon and I met in '97, she asked me on the first date, "What's your favorite '80s song?" Because I was a radio guy, and I said, "Well, Waiting for a Star to Fall. That's easy." And she said, "That's mine."
No way. So here we are, 27 years later,
and there you guys are.
I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great way to start the
Wait,
day.
I have to go back. Shannon, let's see, 27 years. Okay, so that would put us 1994.
97.
97. Okay, 90. Okay.
He did
Yeah,
the
we're
math for you.
wow.
But anyway, I just came back from Vancouver Island to visit my older kids. I'm telling you this for a reason.
Nice.
And I talked to my ex-wife. I was staying with my ex-wife, and she said, "Well, who are you interviewing next?" And I told her, and she says, "Well, haven't they broken up?" I says, "Well, they still work together." She says, "Oh my God, they're an anomaly like us, because I don't work with my ex-wife, but I get along with her. And if I had to work with her, I had." Can we start with the awkward question? How do you two manage to make it work? Because exes are supposed to hate each other. They got stuff, and
Man, we have to. I think it's baked into who we are. We get up in the, well, I'm speaking for us right now, Shannon, and I want you to pitch in on this too.
Oh, I will.
We eat, sleep, writing, and that was such a baked in part of our marriage, our life together. When we realized that the marriage was not going to work for us any longer, defining it was it. We had to figure out how we were going to define that, and actually we ended up writing an album called The Wonderground, and during the writing of that whole process, the songs that came out of it, the intimate songs, I think they helped pave the way for us to find the words for each other, and find the importance of continuing the relationship in another form. But
Right.
but
We
it's
had
still
a lot of very good reasons to continue. First and foremost was that we, at the bottom of everything, had a good friendship.
yeah.
And that was the foundation. And then we didn't want to blow up our daughter's world by getting into nasty fights and being antagonistic. And so we actually wrote out a pact between us after we got through some of the initial sturm and drang, and upset. Then we wrote out a pact, and we signed it and dated it, and it was a commitment to do our best to work through these things and come out the other side whole in some way.
but you're still an anomaly, though. I mean, my ex-wife and I and her husband, we'd go to parties together when I lived in Vancouver, and it would freak people out. And I'm going, is this that rare that you can do stuff with your ex? And it's like, we never talk about each other.
I think it freaked people out when they came to our wedding. So they both came to
Oh.
our wedding. So they're like, what?
Yeah, I know. Well, congratulations on that. I say,
Yeah.
because as you know, it isn't necessarily easy.
Yeah.
It's the harder road in many ways, but much more fulfilling.
When
I think it's comfortable for people to take sides. I think that historically, and I think, in fact, it was funny. Shannon and I were just having a discussion about this yesterday. The redefinition may seem clear to us, like for you guys, and you're there in time, but the rest of the world is still playing catch up, and some of the world will never catch up, as we've come to find, even within our family. There are some people that will never quite see us in our new relationships quite, and embrace us. So, but such is the world.
In high school, were either of you known for music? Were you, with the people around you, did they go, oh, Shannon, I know you met later, but were you known as the music people?
I was not. My mom had bought me a guitar. I think it was a classical guitar on my 16th birthday. And I think it was because she really wanted a guitar. So then there was one in the house, but she must have identified that I really loved music. And so I think I right away started writing with it and just thinking about making my own songs. George has a different story.
Well, you were when I first met you, you're finger picking on the guitar. You were quite dexterous too. You were actually a really talented folk singer songwriter. It kind of, I mean, that would be like you were pretty well developed at that point. That way, I think. High school for me was kind of the blooming of my music career. Actually, it went farther back because it's how long do we have here? I think I was 10 years old when I realized that music was going to be the main thing I was the most curious about in my life. And so from that point on, it was simple. It was just a matter of figuring out how I was going to live and make music. We played clubs. We played. I was in a number of bands throughout high school, and we had a really great swing choir in high school, and I was part of the combo. And all the things that I learned about playing music with other people, listening, figuring out how to, when I took a solo, I wasn't just, just playing over everybody else, all that sort of thing that you learn. It was really invaluable. And, in a number of different bands, and eventually Shannon and I met each other. We were both playing in Seattle. Different bands. She came out to see me on my incarnation and ended up joining us. And we were a local kind of folk pop incarnation up in Seattle. Yeah. And we got a chance to play our songs that we were writing, but we'd throw in like, dance with me, I want to be your partner.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've interviewed John a few times. I've interviewed John from Orleans a few times.
Oh yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that was a great song. And, and Dan Fogelberg, we used to, because he had all those beautiful harmonies. So any Crosby, Stills, Nash, anybody who had loads of harmonies, we would just dissect them, get them perfect, and do those in the clubs, and
Yeah.
so that was our deal.
And we got a chance to throw in some of our own songs in the mix, and so we were trying out songs, and we realized the ones that nobody reacted to. There was something about them that. So I'm a pleaser, so that was really bothering me. So what could I do to write a song that people might like a little bit better?
So when you were both in the band together and just starting out and starting working together, were you a couple at that time, or did that?
Yeah, how long did that take?
I took a year.
What? What?
A year.
Well, we
started out
as friends, right?
Yeah. We were in a trio. We had, I think, other relationships going on initially, and also we were just focused on the music. And George and David had a duo before I joined, and they were very close. They'd been born in the same hospital on the same day, same year, and gone to school together. And so even though I was very impressed with George and thought he was wonderful in many ways, I didn't think that it would be right to intrude on that, because they were longtime friends. And you can be the person who's the wedge, and Nobody really wants to be in that position.
Yeah.
I needed to come to my senses, and eventually I realized that Shannon and I we started writing together within that band, where David, the other member, he and I had always been a writing team, and I guess we pictured, he was Lennon and I was McCartney, I think, as we were growing up, and as we matured, you know, the world started looking a little different to me and him, and so we started growing apart naturally. And Shannon and I wrote the first song that we wrote together was called "Good Exchange," and I think it just happened to be the lyrics that Shannon came up with at the time, and it was just a stonking great song right off the bat. And it was easy to write with her. The whole flow was I saw the way forward, writing wise. But I have to say, I think I fell for Shannon much earlier than she fell for me. That was your initial question, and I think
I guess one thing that I really always want to know is, where did you get the name Boy Meets Girl? How did that come to fruition?
Oh, we had just moved to Los Angeles. We had our plan B if Los Angeles didn't work out. So we're living in this neighborhood called Tarzana, which at the time was still quite rural. I'm not sure how it looks right now, but we had a donkey next door and all of that. So we were busy making, recording on the 4-track deck, right next to the washer and dryer in the living room. Of course, that's how you do things. And sending out cassette tapes, ever hopeful. And so we thought, well, we should have a name to put on this tape, aside from our own names. And so we just sat at the kitchen table and wrote lists. And then, and I think we both felt like, well, Boy Meets Girl really suits us. We're going to take a lot of crap for it.
yeah.
It's very corny. But we didn't come up with a better name. So we thought, well, we'll put it on the tape and then we can always change it. But we never did change it.
Cool.
And somebody did get the tape out of the bin at A&M Records. And that's how we got our first record deal.
Yeah.
What was that process like? That sorry, George, to interrupt you. Like, I'm just kind of curious. So that happens. I mean, I've been in radio 40 years, and I talk to so many people who say we were just on our last craft dinner, but tell me what the process was like. Okay, someone listened to you. What did that look like in your life?
Oh,
we were just about to have a baby, our daughter Hillary.
Yeah.
And I had just decided, I think a week previous to, I think probably a couple of months went by since we'd sent out the cassette tapes. And so I thought, I'm not going to be a songwriter anymore. I'm going to be a mom.
This is breaking news. I didn't know this is the part of the story.
I had just gotten all settled on that notion, And then I heard George answer the phone, landline, of course, back then. It was in the hallway. I heard him answer it, and my ears pricked up because I could tell it was a music business person. And they wanted to meet us in person. And they ended up signing us to the publishing at Elmo Irving first, of course, because that's how they solidify the deal. And then we got the record contract shortly after that.
Yeah.
But someone actually pulled the tape out of this basket. They showed us the basket when
Yeah.
we came in. But the reason is, George will tell you.
Yeah. We've done songwriting workshops, and people ask, how things happen, and this is our trick, but we didn't do it purposely. We'd been told that there was a fella in A&R at A&M Records, and his name was Alan Jalakis. And so we sent this tape like Shannon just laid out there, and then we didn't hear anything for months. And
and the envelope had, George is kind of a cartoonist, and so
that's right. That's right.
drawn this cartoon on the outside of the envelope, kind of around
It's like
the address, you know?
Yeah, I think I drew a fish or something.
Something.
Anyway, you're right. Yeah, there was some artwork on the outside. Because I just know you were trying to catch somebody's attention in some primitive way. Anyhow, as it turns out, we get this call, and the guy's laughing when he answers the phone, or when he's on the phone. He says, "Hi, is this George?" Yeah, this is Alan Jalakis. And he's laughing. He says, actually, my name is Aaron Jacobus. We had spelled his name wrong, and that's why he picked it out of the bunch. They were having a good guffaw over the fact that somebody thought his name was Alan Jalakis. They stuck the tape in and went, geez, these kids are pretty good. So it actually worked out in our behalf. And I just, if we're advising young writers, that's another technique you can use.
What was on that tape? What was anything on that tape end up being recorded?
That's a good question.
That is a good question. I think Your Move My Heart was on that tape.
Yeah, although we never put that on any of our albums, but it did get recorded.
Yeah, Phyllis Hyman. It was one of our first placements. Was with Tom Bell produced Phyllis Hyman back in the late 70s, and yeah, I think they changed the name of the song to "It's Your Move," I think. But yeah.
And I don't remember what was on that original tape. I don't think any of those songs though ended up on our first album or subsequent.
Oh, one of them did. Actually, it was "Oh Girl," and that because with the demo, the demo of "Oh Girl" was on that tape.
I love the phrasing of that song. I like
really.
I'm a big phrasing guy. I like Sam Cooke for that. Mark Jordan once told me, I said, where'd you learn phrasing? Mark says, God, what are you? Me and Rod Stewart, we learned, and Rod recorded Rhythm of My Heart from Mark and John Kupik, and he says, oh God, it's Sam Cooke. Where did you guys learn to phrase? Where was that unconscious?
I think our phrasing is quite different from one another. Gosh, I probably learned mine from Joni Mitchell, honestly. I used to be much wordier.
You were songwriting girl in the beginning. Yeah.
I think early on, I would say Bernie Taupin, because I fashioned myself as an Elton John kind of writing to a page of lyrics. So I would look at Shannon's lyrics and I would try to couch those lyrics rather than say, hey, fit this to my rhythm and melody. And that causes different things to happen. And so it would take my creativity in a different direction. She would have a big long phrase, and so like the out of "Oh Girl, I Don't Need You, I Never Want to See You, Do You Understand?" I thought, like emphasize "Oh Girl," and then kind of come up with a rhythmic "I don't need you, I never want to see you."
Yeah.
And so "Do You Understand?" and "Oh Girl" ended up being the
bookends, kind of
bookends that you come away from the song. If you listen to it enough, you're going to get hooked by those two.
I was just listening to that before you guys got on, because I went,
I love that.
We used to play that at K-Light in Edmonton when I was working there.
I love that. I love knowing that.
Here's an "Oh Girl" story also. A&M Records was it La Brea Avenue?
It was.
Yeah. So we were coming back from a meeting with them. "Oh Girl" had just been released, and they, threw some promo money at it, and it ended up in the top 40 in Los Angeles. Probably Kiss Radio, and so we're driving down La Brea. It's evening. The radio's on. And all of a sudden, "Oh Girl" comes on.
I think it was actually Rick Dees in the afternoon.
It might have been.
Yeah.
And they announced it. They had this wonderful announcement for it. He said, and this song is just plain good. So there was a gas station that we were just passing by. George pulls over and goes into the phone booth because nobody has cell phones, so there's a phone booth there. He puts some money and he calls the DJ and said, "This is George Merrill, and I
They
just
put
want
me
to
on
thank
air.
you because we're in the car and we heard you're playing our song."
They put you on air?
Yeah,
Uh,
it was
What a
hilarious.
moment.
It was such a different world.
Yeah,
I've
it's
got
actually one of
goosebumps.
those type of moments are one of the reasons that Shannon and I have always adored radio. Because I mean, we're having one now too. These sort of extemporaneous moments to us are these are our live. These are times where we get to share and communicate in a more intimate atmosphere. Some people are comfortable on stage and can manage to do that with 30,000 people out in front of them. We've always adored radio and this type of interview for that reason, because it's just fun. It's fun to connect.
I was talking to Trevor Rabin this morning. He was a phoner, and I hate doing phone. I've never liked talking on the phone. She knows that. So I'm talking to him, and I'm asking him about Owner of a Lonely Heart. And I don't know why I have to preface the question by going, I know you've answered this question 1,000 million times. And you know what he said? Something similar to what you said. He said, I cherish these moments. I enjoy. He says, someone's coming. He says, I find interviews therapy sometimes when someone asks me about my early family or whatever. But he says, you know how many people wish they could be in this situation talking about, in his case, it's usually that one song, even though his new album, by the way, is just insanely good. Very proggy.
Oh,
really, really
interesting.
good.
We'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
But that's his thing. That's his thing. He says, oh my God, I cherish having, because he says it's that one song. You guys have a lot of songs you can talk about. And of course, he went back and had to redo the old Yes songs when he went on tour. But he says, I'm going to be on the phone all day and I'm going to be answering the same question, maybe slightly different. And I went, what a great attitude, huh?
That is a great attitude. And he's so right. I mean, among our group of musician friends, I mean, they're all doing something interesting and they love it, but we are probably by far the most fortunate.
Yeah. And we we continually recognize that and feel grateful that and when we can include them, I mean, we'll have an extemporaneous call with the guitar player on Oh Girl, the guy that did the solo or something, right? We'll just call him up and it's great to just kind of relive some of those moments, or the drummer and that sort of thing.
Now, you also did backing vocals, right? For Let's Hear It for the Boy with Denise Williamson. So how was that?
Yeah, what was that like?
Yeah.
We used to tour with her. We toured with her for maybe a year and a half or a year, I guess.
Yeah, Denise Williams. How did we? Well, we met her through Tom Bell, music producer who had produced 2 albums, the My Melody album, and was it called Gonna Take a Miracle? I forget. Anyway, the 2 albums, and during that time, I went back to Philadelphia and played synthesizer and sang backing vocals on songs like Silly for her on her recordings and stuff like that. It was formative time for me. We got back from that time, and Denise, she hired us to be part of her band, and then I think it was later on during that time that we did. It wasn't Let's Hear It for the Boy happened after we were already touring, right?
Yeah, after that.
Yeah,
so George Duke produced Let's Hear It for the Boy, and Denise called us up to do the background vocals. It was so much fun. What a great session.
Yeah.
When Tom Bell produced Elton on Tom Bell's sessions, I remember going, who's this Tom Bell guy? And all my friends were going, older friends, well, let me tell you who Tom Bell is. Like a legend. What was it like working with him?
Oh, wow. Tom, well, I have to say, in some ways, he became a father figure for me. Just, the things that I learned from him weren't largely musical. He taught me about basic things like modulating up a minor third, which you'll hear if you study his arrangements. invariably happens in nearly all of his songs. But he had a couple of things that uh, he were his signature things, and he shared them with us. And so Shannon and I, we learned so much through the songwriting process of being um, uh, staff writers with Bellboy Music up in Seattle. And then it extended from there. Shannon and I ended up writing with Tom. We wrote
The
um,
Touch.
The Touch, Be My
Yeah.
Baby, and and also a Heartbreaker, which was like a kind of an add-on song I think we used it as a B-side for
For a
maybe
single.
was it Oh Girl, or
I
might
I can't
have been
remember.
the B-side, but yeah, it was on the first album. And then see, didn't we write another song? No, that was it. I was thinking we wrote for a future
But he
album.
sang background vocals on those songs on our first album. It was so fun. We're in this little rental house in Venice, California, and we turned the garage into, as best we could, to a recording studio. So Tom was in there. We all were writing together, and he's
Yeah.
he's quite a jokester and a storyteller. And so we learned a lot about his Philly days and the people he'd worked with. But yeah, he was so talented, and he has such a recognizable style. So when you hear The Touch or really Heartbreaker, I think it shows up in both of those the most. You hear
Oh,
his changes and the kinds of background vocals. So the three
oh,
of us had a great time singing together
that
on those.
you just mentioned The Touch, and I just heard his mellifluous voice.
I
I
feel
feel so
so
much,
much.
They
feel
still
so
got it,
much
these two.
love
Oh
in
yeah.
that touch. I feel so much.
Mhm.
It's like I'm trying to sound like him because it's like he taught us. Yeah, he helped teach me how to sing that way. So.
Wow. You want to talk about the big tune? There's a lot of bounces to Waiting for a Star to Fall. There's a lot like, did Clive Davis not like it in the beginning?
I think he liked it. I think what it was is he ran things by Whitney, and
Yeah,
I think she either responded to it, it resonated with her, or it did not. And I think between she and Clive, they would nix songs and then, say, well, we'll go forward with this batch. And it
yeah,
just didn't resonate with her,
yeah.
which was our good fortune, actually.
Well,
Although I'm
Waiting for a Star to Fall was like what, 83 million on Spotify alone. Like it's huge.
That's
Oh,
It's
yeah.
oh, yay.
Well, I know. Yeah, you made
Wow.
$10 on it.
I know.
Yeah. We can go to dinner.
One
What's
today.
your thoughts on Spotify and things like that? I mean, it's obvious. I know the obvious answer is, but the obvious answer is there for obvious reasons.
All I can say about it is well, the rates keep inching up, and I'm thrilled about that part for songwriters who are coming up. Because it's the emerging new music business, and streaming and all the different new sources that have cropped up over the last 20, 30 years. The rates aren't good for a variety of reasons we don't need to get into, but
Okay.
the big thing is that the rates are getting better. So I'm happy about that part.
And there's a lot of emerging advocacy, and everybody's
Yeah.
really, to be fair, trying to catch up to this, even though streaming's been around for quite some time. I think it's hard for a structure, especially a behemoth type structure, to make changes. And
Yeah,
it's hard for people at the top to let go of this payday they've had, I would say,
yeah.
and share it around a little more.
I'll ask you to tell this story a millionth time now. So you look up in the sky at a Whitney
Yeah,
Houston concert. I'll let you tell the story.
She had just finished playing How Will I Know? And really, it was so cool. It's this beautiful night in Los Angeles. And, we're having an experience we sort of dreamed of, but we didn't really necessarily think
Yeah.
was ever going to happen. And after she finished singing, really people just stood up and started cheering. And I looked up and saw that star. So I sat down, grabbed my pen, my little notebook that I used to carry all the time, and just wrote down that phrase, waiting for a star to fall. And I thought, I'll just put that away, and wrote it down so I don't forget it. And I know how this moment felt, so I can get back to it.
Yeah, it was, I mean, in thinking back on it, it was just a perfect night. And I remember at the time feeling that way. But it was not overwhelmingly perfect. It was just like, boy, everything's just going our way right now. And here we are. We got taken by one of the upper executives from Arista Records, personally drove us to the Greek Theater, this outdoor venue, and we got sat right by the mix board, so the sound is incredible. We're watching Whitney Houston do Saving All My Love and all these great songs, and everybody's just really into it. And then ba, 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 the beginning tones of How Will I Know came on. And and everybody just like, it was this big, just the whole Greek theater, everybody got to their feet and started clapping, and it was just this other kind of level that it went to, and we were in the midst of all that, and it was just so exhilarating. And I don't know if there's ever been another moment like it. I mean, also to be in the presence of this emerging talent that everybody was being affected by that night.
Yeah, she was pretty electrifying.
Yeah.
We got the first, I remember in radio, something was going on. Tina Turner, we got Private Dancer. Everyone got free copies of Private Dancer. And I went, wow, they're really pushing this girl. Whitney Houston's first 2 albums, speaking of, we got free copies. I remember going, wow, they're making sure, especially the sophomore, the second, they made sure that everyone got it. And that was rare in radio in Edmonton. I lived in Edmonton then. And I remember going, wow, this is Madonna's first 2 albums, like a Virgin, and then the first one. We got that. And it's always we look at each other and go, oh, this is important. Something's going on here.
Yeah. That's interesting to hear, because those are the things we never know,
Shannon she said, make sure you ask about How Will I Know. Tell us about the process of that song.
Okay, so that was, we were called by our publishing company, and they said that Janet Jackson was looking for a song for her new album. Oh. And I think it was her second album then, because her first one was kind of this light, breathy, airy sound. And very Michael Jackson in a way, his higher register singing. So we thought, okay, well, we'll write a very light pop song for her. So we wrote.
Well, actually, you can hear in the movie, you can actually hear Shannon singing "How Will I Know" the demo, in that light, airy demo that we created. It's in the movie, and Shannon's singing, and if you're watching with the subtitles, it actually says Shannon Rubicam, "How Will I Know."
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. We just happened to have it on. Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it went by quickly. It was there.
Oh no, she made the movie. It was very exciting.
So that song, it ended up being turned down by Janet and her crew, because she was working with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis at the time for her Control album, which of course was an about face for her and a completely different presentation. And How Will I Know would definitely not have been the right choice. So they turned it down. And then is it Jerry Griffiths or Jerry Griffith?
I think it's just I think it's not plural.
Okay, so the one and only Jerry Griffith came to Elmo Irving looking for songs for this new singer, Whitney Houston. And he liked that song. They played it for him, and he walked off with that. He might have walked off with a few other songs. And then we got a call from, I think it was Clive, saying, we really like this song. And he had a suggestion for a producer, but it went through a number of producers. I think it was a matter of people's time and, syncing up with when they hoped to record Whitney. So it ended up with Narada Michael Walden. And he added some additional music, and we wrote additional lyrics to that. And then and then he made this huge song out of it, with this incredible bass. Just everything about it is explosive. So
Yeah.
when we first heard it, we freaked out.
Yeah, that must be interesting hearing someone taking you invent this thing, you invent it, and someone takes that invention through their whatever past and everything they've got. There's a producer, there's musicians, there's the singer.
This is a metamorphosis. Oftentimes, if somebody will take your demo and many times they'll kind of copy it because I mean, I remember Paul Young did that with one of our first placements with the song "Bring Me Home," and he had listened to our demo and kind of, just kind of used many of the aspects of the demo. But with How Will I Know, like Shannon just explained, it's like it went from this, little light, airy song, breezy sort of approach. And Narada just figured out this way to just have it come out of the blocks. I mean, to me, it's such a great radio intro too. I just love that little signature keyboard part. And then that bass, it's like the whole thing. The whole thing begs for radio. 6:30 in the morning. It's KHJ with the sound of Whitney Houston.
Right.
I mean, you can do it a lot better than I can.
Was it kind of same with I Want to Dance with Somebody? Was it sort of that sort of same transformation that you saw?
Yeah, what did it sound like in the beginning?
Yeah.
You mean our version of
Yeah.
Want to Dance with Somebody? It was a pop rock version.
Yeah.
Mainly only because, by then we knew what Whitney sounded like, but there's no way that I, as the demo singer, could approximate her. So I just did the best I could to show the energy of the song.
Yeah, we were after. Yeah, actually, that's well put. I'm a lyricist. Yeah, I'm a journeyman. I can get by, but boy, she just draws those other level of ideas, or the simplicity of I want to dance with somebody. I want to dance with somebody, feel the heat, yeah, with somebody who loves me. She throws those little extra things in there that are simple, but full of depth.
Thank you.
Yeah. What was your reaction to losing her? You had met her, obviously. Did you get a chance to meet her?
Yeah. In fact,
Briefly.
that night at the How Will I Know concert, when she performed it, we were whisked backstage, and and this is the 19-year-old Whitney. If you see the movie, the little tight hair, and she had her mom and dad with her, and
She was effervescent, it was her
she
first
was
tour.
bouncy. It was amazing. Yeah.
She was on top of the world, I think, at that moment.
Yeah, I think
sweet.
it was actually so perfect to get a chance to meet her at that point, because I think all three of us it was like we were all pinching ourselves that we were all so full of good fortune at the time. And I think she was feeling just purely that. None of the complexities of life had kicked in quite then.
But we were feeling what a large portion of music lovers were feeling when we heard about her death. It was hard to believe. It was stunning. And I don't think it really hit me until I had the TV on. They televised her funeral. And when I saw her mom following Whitney's coffin down the aisle, I think it was an overhead shot, and you could see her just stumble, and everybody's trying to hold her up by her elbows. That just brought me to tears, because I just really felt the loss, and I felt it through what I saw of her mother, I think, is how it got to me finally.
Mm.
I remember, I think it was Spirit Trail by Bruce Hornsby. I remember being in radio and never thinking much, always being really nervous in interviews when you're young. I don't get nervous anymore, but I remember sitting there and he's getting ready, sitting down. I think his fourth album. And I started the interview by saying, I knew where I was when I heard The Way It Is. I knew where I was. I never, and you've gone all over the place. And now you're sitting across from me, and he went on this long thing about, you never know where you're going to go in your life. And it's hit me every time I do an interview of going, it's strange. We both were touched by your song and your songs. And here we are. And there's always that element of little old me in everybody, because people forget you're fans too, right? You're fans. But where were those moments when you met some of your heroes?
Well, for me, I didn't actually meet her, but we were recording an album with Arif Mardin in Los Angeles. It was in a studio in Santa Monica. And I came out of the studio and the lobby is like packed with people. And I look over and they're sitting on the sofa surrounded by, me and a bunch of other sycophants, was Joni Mitchell. And I thought, I was in the studio and she's been out here for how long and I didn't know it. And the room was so full of people. I just, and Arif was right next to me. So she acknowledged Arif. And then I just felt like, well, I'm just going to slink on home now.
Wow.
It was a powerful moment. And actually, Arif being the gentleman, you talk about the nerves that kick in. Without skipping a beat, he introduced, these are the artists that I'm working with. This is called Boy Meets Girl. This is Shannon Rubicam and George Merrill, and whether that ever even got heard because, the whole thing. But I just appreciated that Arif was, not flustered.
Well, Chris Bodie told me backstage one day, I said, oh, by the way, I interviewed you like 10 times. We never talked about Joni Mitchell. He said, and you know this, what I'm just going to say. He said, being on a bus or anything with Joni Mitchell, she'll see a tree and you'll see she's thinking about it. And then she'll come and describe the tree and how the tree felt. And I'm going, what? He says, I don't know what planet she's from, but man, you can understand the body of work when you spend any time with her or even watch her anywhere. He says, and I'm going, wow.
Yeah. She takes it in.
And she
just processes it her own way, and her choices of words and phrases and chords, every single thing is it just sparkles.
Yeah. I the follow up to that moment of coming out of the studio, she was visiting her boyfriend at the time, who was producing, what was her name? That beautiful singer, songwriter. She was in the studio meeting up with her boyfriend. She was waiting for him to come out of the studio, and
I don't know where all the people came from, though. They just showed up, maybe off the
Sean
street.
Penn.
Word got out anyway.
She was hanging out with Sean Penn. Yeah, so it was like it was a star-studded event. But the next day, she was back, just visiting him again. But she was hanging out, and we were upstairs. Shannon was back home, unfortunately, that night. But we were mixing, and I saw Joni, and we spent about 2 hours playing ping pong. And she came up and heard Shannon sing our song on the New Dream album called "Free." Got a chance to hear Shannon sing, which was kind of fun. And just spending some time watching her chain smoke American spirits, and she was, at the time, she was agitated about a Native Canadian issue that was going on at the time, and I'm not sure, it was something Indigenous that was really bothering her.
What was her
ranted about it, and It was great fun to be in her presence, though. Larry Klein.
Yeah,
Klein.
Larry Klein.
Yeah. 3 songs you wish you would have written.
Well,
Okay.
Boys of Summer by
Oh.
Don Henley. I wish it said
Yeah.
Boys of Summer by Don Henley and Shannon Rubicam.
Yeah. Was it? Is it called? Candle in the Wind. Elton John, Bernie Taupin.
Third one, I just heard this recently and it really just blew my mind with its simplicity. Again, though, Bernie Taupin's lyrics and Elton John, it's just a guitar. I think it's called Love Song.
Oh, it's
Do
called
you
Love
know
Song.
what I mean?
And it's Elton,
old one.
and he's not playing piano.
No.
It's just Caleb Quaye playing guitar.
Yeah. It was
You ever
perfect
meet Caleb? You ever meet him?
No, but I've always, I mean, those early albums were formative to me, and I just, the way that those albums were arranged musically, affected me greatly. I'd love to meet him. Is he still on the planet? Where is he?
He's still around. He's just released a documentary. It's on YouTube. It's free, called Louder Than Rock.
Outside of music, what are you best at? What do you feel that you're best at?
I'm a really good organizer. I could have been Marie Kondo.
Oh, you are a good organizer. I
I
would
don't know
say
if that's a very good claim to fame, though.
Well, I think I think I wouldn't say selling yourself short, but you're also quite a pilot of airplanes. I mean, that's quite an accomplishment too.
What?
She can fly a plane, for God's sake.
Well, how did that start? And how long have you been flying?
I reached a point in my life, almost a decade ago now, where I had some time, and I was bored, and I thought, well, I should volunteer for something. So I looked around online, and I thought, that's not really going to give me that feeling I want. So I just closed my eyes and asked myself, is there something I've forgotten that I want to do? I closed my eyes and had this technicolor vision looking in the side of a little plane, and I'm in the pilot seat. Nobody else is in the other seat either. So I went to the internet and I got a discovery flight. And when we took off from the runway, I think I went, woo, and the gal who gave me the discovery flight probably looked over and went, I think she's hooked. So I learned to fly, and I bought a little plane and had it all refurbished, and it's really fun and challenging.
When was that? When would that have started?
That was 2014, I think.
Wow.
Late in life. I wished I had learned much earlier, but I didn't. So it was the surprise when I did.
We have a song.
Surprise.
Nice.
The follow up to that, before I tell you whatever I'm going to come up with, which I haven't come up with, and I'm not stalling, is Shannon and I wrote a song called Night Flight that goes back to about 1978 or 1980. I think we wrote that song. And actually, it might have been, yeah. And in that song, she sings about snowflakes strobing in the plain lights, luring me out to the edge of midnight in this aurora's vast beauty.
I've gained the distance to see.
Thank you. Yeah.
And it's really the perspective when you're flying. Yeah. It's that you get to look down and see everything and what a gorgeous planet it is. And
yeah.
Really,
but that's a great example of one of the things that I admire so much about Shannon, is where she draws that stuff, where she finds that kind of.
So what's the answer, George?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my dad was a Boeing engineer.
Oh, wow.
He is the chief tool designer of the 727, the 737, and the 747.
Got to get on this.
Yeah. And so dad was an engineer, and he always kind of hoped that one of his sons, two sons, was going to follow in his footsteps. Well, my brother didn't. So it was up to me. And at the age of 10, as I've said, I kind of had made my choice of what I was going to do. And he was supportive, but he was always kind of urging me toward being an engineer. He took me up to the Boeing plant and showed me the building of the 747 and how they attach the wing to the body. And it was just, it's going through stress tests, all this cool stuff. And
Well, wait a minute. You guys were in Seattle then? You were in Seattle?
we're born and raised up in the Northwest. Yeah. Okay. In fact, we're part Canadian, just so you know. Yeah. I mean, and every once in a while, we both kick in, and we start, we can help ourselves. We kind of like the accent comes up. So, but anyway, so getting back to the engineering thing, yeah, my dad he was always urging me toward that, and so I think I have a latent engineer side. I love building things. I love looking at something and kind of figuring out the structural integrity of it, figuring out where its weakness and strengths are, and how to build things. I love that, and it's like so. I love building projects around the house, and I love getting into construction. I love being part of a crew and helping out.
You do.
Like rebuilding the decks around a house that I had and stuff like that. I love doing that sort of stuff as another aspect of myself.
You're in a doctor's office.
Mm.
Someone looks at you and says the old, "What are you in for?" Of course, but no. What if they say, "What do you do?" Do you go there? I mean, if you're at a party, do you go there? Because you open up that door, you're a musician. Do you know anything that do I know anything you've done? And it turns into a long conversation. It's not about bragging necessarily, but it's also about, okay, what do you do when someone asks that question to each one of you?
Well, I know. Go ahead, Shannon. Sorry.
I have a funny story about that. I did answer that question.
I know you're going to say.
Asked me that question, and I answered it. And so he says, "Now, do you have a few minutes after the appointment?" So we go into his office, and he pulls his keyboard out from under his desk, puts it up on the desk, and plays me the song he just wrote.
What?
And then he wants to know what I think of it, and what would I do with that song if I were him?
So was it any good, by the way?
Well, I think I was very diplomatic and said, that has the kind of melody that I think that would do very well in like Italy. I think that's what I said.
But in your case, Italy, not Italy.
Yeah. In Little Italy.
Yeah.
So I don't promote myself that way if I can help it, because I don't want to be put on the spot.
Right?
It's a weird position to be in, of going, even we're bottom feeders in entertainment. We look at radio guys, because we go to introduce someone on stage. We know there's like 18,000 people in the audience going, "Hey, radio guy, get off the stage. We want the artist."
Yeah, right.
So even for me, I go, well, I'm in entertainment. Now you can't say that. But George, What do you say? What do you say when someone asks?
Well, I thought about it when you fill out a need form, employment, songwriter, occupations, songwriter, but in self-employed. So right there, yeah, right from the beginning, you're going to get people asking about it. But I think part of it came from hearing stories about, somebody that's like vastly more famous, and when Paul McCartney would walk into a studio and just walk in by himself without his bodyguards and his entourage, and just say, "Hey," and I think it diffuses the whole thing. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, just I'm a songwriter, you know. So and sometimes people want to pull out a drawer and their keyboard and play a song, but you know, a lot of times it oftentimes starts up a conversation. In fact, there's some people
It
doing
does.
construction here at the house right now, and one of the guys he said, I couldn't help seeing you had some music here, and I mean, of course he wants to talk about his life and music. and
It
to
is a
me,
great connector, though.
it is, and it's what I love about it is that music is touching him in his life, and I think that's the biggest
Yeah.
thing is I've come around to seeing, wow, music exists in his life too, and it's moving him, and I think that's fantastic. It's not necessarily his profession. I'm the lucky one that's made it my profession since I was 10 years old.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know,
But
and
then we
and
meet the two of you, or we read our
Yeah.
fan mail or something,
Yeah.
and realize how a song affects other people, and it goes out and it's its own entity at that point, and it's received by you who have your own lives and your own perspective, and it resonates with you in a way we can't even guess at, and it's magic.
it
So
is.
that's,
Yeah.
you know, that's the major plus and gift of it, really. And to find myself and really ourselves in this position is, it's almost unbelievable. It's surreal often,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and affirming, but really mostly just I feel so lucky.
Yeah, I would imagine you both have that same sort of thing. It's like, you know, I mean, it's pinch yourself stuff.
Yeah.
We get to spend time doing what we really love doing, you know.
Yeah.
How
Well,
cool
and
is
you
that?
know, it's just really seems like the luck of, we were sitting down ready to write a song. We're in a certain mode or, you know, resonance or vibration. And this song came along, and it's like our net was out at that very second, you know, and it sort of, and whoa, look what I got. You know, it's like you pull your net out and there's all these like sparkling notes and words and things, you know. It's very
So
much like
Flappy
that.
flappy fishes in the net. I've never now I see the 16ths and the eighths in a different way, Shannon. That's kind of cool. Little fins.
What are your three top albums that you like?
3 top albums.
I love The Hissing of Summer Lawns,
Oh,
Joni.
Joni Mitchell.
you
Mhm.
nabbed the one I was going to go. In fact, it would have been, I probably would have said Hajira or The Hissing of Summer Lawns. Those are 2 of the epic albums, formative albums. Yeah. Wow.
When another
Joni.
one that just popped into my mind also, I'm probably not stealing this from you, George, but it's just, it isn't necessarily my top, but then when I hear it, I go, oh my God, they were so good. Supertramp, Breakfast in America.
Yeah.
I don't
It's
know
such a
why I don't get
wild
that one from
album.
Americans as much for whatever reason, because they were bigger here.
I always wanted more from them, and it was just a mystery that they just disappeared.
Albums.
I would say it goes back to, it's weird. I mean, I feel a kinship that you'd go back to Elton John and Bernie Taupin, because and you mentioned Mad Men Across the Water. I mean, that album was a groundbreaker. You know, and we talked about the arrangement thing, and how we find our meter and our rhythm and that sort of thing. The way that those songs are singable, and he shall be leave on, and he shall be a good man, he shall be leave on. Come on, give me a break. You know, I mean, all of those, and the song Madmen Across the Water, it's like, and those strings, the string arrangement, Paul Buckmaster and everything, it's just
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that is an epic album, and start to finish.
Paul Buckmaster's and Caleb's, of course, him and Gus, the producer, are both dead. But those are 2 that I wish. Gus Dudgeon, Paul Buckmaster.
Oh, yeah.
I talked to Gus Dudgeon on the phone.
What?
Actually, it
About-
was shortly before I believe he died within the next 6 months to a year. Shannon and I we were in a producer search for the next album, and I don't know how I got his number, but somehow I got his number, and I just cold called him, and he picked up. And we ended up having about a 20-minute phone conversation, and I told him, what we were after, and he was kind of familiar with the band, but he said, I'm just not into producing right now. I'm kind of doing some. He might have been dealing with health issues, but we had a very lovely talk, and I was so thankful that I got that moment with him. But it's funny, I've never talked to anybody about this, and here we are. But
isn't that weird? You look at it this way. I always look at it this way. Like after we get off, I'll say I spent an hour. Both of you gave me both of us an hour of your life. I always look at it that way. I like sending this out because you never know. Who would you still like to either work with, or meet?
Oh, I had Dream Fulfilled. Does that count?
Sure, of course.
Had an opportunity to meet Graham Nash about 15 years ago. Met him, and he, maybe casually threw out, boy, you're a songwriter and everything, like maybe we should try writing a song together sometime. Well, I filed that one away and studied him for a good period of time. And I ended up writing a song that I sent to him, and he loved it, loved the start of it. And we ended up finishing it. It's called A Better Life, and it's on his new album.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah. And it was a pleasure getting a chance to meet somebody who he taught me how to sing in the Hollies. Hey, Carrie Ann, what's your game now? Can anybody play? So he taught me how to sing high and make it, all those different things. So meeting him, that was getting over my nervousness to say, here's an idea for a song, and he actually loved it. And we got a song called A Better Life.
Yeah.
There's the Joni connection too, because of course in the early days Graham was with Joni way back when.
Yeah.
And Alan Clark, I'm still trying to get Alan Clark. Gee.
Oh, you know what? I can help you. Little side note, I can help you on that.
Oh, good. That was I shall be in contact. And Shannon, well, who would you?
Oh, I have to tell you, these days, I am so impressed with Lady Gaga. She's got a voice that she can do anything with. It's powerful, it's warm, beautiful, and she's such an excellent singer, songwriter, performer, actress. But I think what most strikes me about her is that she seems like a really generous-hearted person to her fans. And I just love that, really. So yeah, I think it would be an immense honor to write with her or for her, or just meet her in passing.
It's going out into the ether. This
was very,
so
very
much fun. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm
Dream
glad
fulfilled.
you were here too, Shannon. This was great.
Shannon, this has been it's been so cool, and I look forward to the next hour. We got to, because you're right. We're going to get off the phone. Shannon and I will talk, and we'll go, hey, we could have, so
We should
until
have
next
Zoom
time.
cocktails sometime.
Yes. Yes.
I love that.
Take care, guys. Looking forward to the next time.
Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
And there'll also be links to the podcast when it's ready. Remember, if you want to make a donation to the channel and help us grow, there's a PayPal link at the very top of the description. Also, join our Patreon. You'll get early access to all our videos. Subscribe to our channel. We've got great swag. If you want to buy a t-shirt or a coat or a hat, it's all at the very top of the description, the link. But subscribe to the channel, like our videos, comment on them, and share them on social media. We'd appreciate that. I'm John Bowden. This is Rock History Music.